Hi, everyone. This week we are here with Natalia Gomez. She is the founder of Green Studio, which is a content marketing agency for brands with a purpose. And she's currently bringing in about twice as much as what she was making in her previous job. So thanks for coming on the show, Natalia.
Thank you. I'm really happy and excited to share my story with you.
Yeah, we are excited to hear it. So if you could peel back the layers a little bit and
Mhm.
let us in on how you got to this place where you're bringing in twice as much money as before. What happened? What kicked this all off? Where did it begin?
Yeah, so I studied marketing around 5 years ago, and I used to live in Mexico City at first. And at first, I had this mindset that, I had to chase this corporate job, become a manager, a director in like a corporate field. I really never thought my steps would lead me to where I am today, having my own business. So I was like really focused on that. But obviously, the personal side always comes in. And, I met someone, I got married, and then my personal life had to move and I had to go to the US. So for me, it was really hard because I actually got promoted in my previous job. And then I had to give everything up and go to Michigan, to a place where I legally I couldn't work because only my husband had a work visa. So obviously, when you make a personal decision, it's important to be aware of what you're giving up and not carry that on your shoulders. And but it was hard. I can't say it was an easy step because I've always loved marketing. I've always loved working, and I was 25 years old, and I was like, my life is over now. Am I going to stay, at home every day and cook and just, go out with girlfriends? Like that wasn't something that I visioned myself doing like for the rest of my life. So even though I had like that barrier of I can't legally work in this country, since I also studied a master's in digital marketing before I moved to the US, I always knew that there were things that you can do online where there's no boundaries and you can make an income from anywhere as long as you do it properly and legally and receive the money in your home country. So I always like had that idea in my mind. And just for fun, and because I've always loved also fashion, because my mom's a fashion designer, she studied that, and we also had like a very side small business in Mexico where we would sell clothes at pop-up markets and stuff like that. So I really wanted to do something, but I just wasn't sure what. So I started this fashion blog, and I've always also loved, the ethical part of anything in life, of supporting artisans in Mexico, supporting brands that do things that are eco-friendly or sustainable. So I wanted that to be sort of the topic of my blog. And at first it was called, it had a different name because I didn't really know what I was doing. You start experimenting, and at first it was called my brand name because I wanted to sell some things, but then it was like a little hard because of the legal aspect of where I was. So I said, if I can't like really sell things, I'll just have it as a blog. And then I started experimenting. I started growing. I took some courses to learn how to drive more traffic to my blog. I started to see that that was like, getting traction. And then eventually brands started to ask to be featured on my blog. They said, oh, we like your content. And obviously, since I have the marketing mindset of monetizing everything, um, I started to do like my packages with brand collaborations, and sort of monetizing that a little bit because I built a small audience for that. So also in my inner circle, a lot of people started to ask me like, hey, can you help me with my website, or can you help me with social media and stuff? And it was like all over the place. But then like this idea came to me of, okay, I have a blog, I studied marketing, and I have all these people that are asking me to do things. Because for me, doing a website was like, are you really, paying me to do your website on Wix or on Squarespace or whatever platform? For me, it was ridiculous to charge someone for that because it's super easy for me. But a lot of people started to say, Natalia, it's easy for you, but a lot of people don't want to waste money or time doing it on their own, and they prefer to just pay you whatever you charge so that you do that for them. But like I felt really bad. The first website, I charged $50, and it was like now I look back and I see like the whole potential of the clients that I had before, And it does, you don't, I guess I've also learned that you don't have to feel bad about charging some whatever you feel you need to charge, because you've learned your way up there and you have knowledge that other people don't. And if you do something in 5 minutes, it doesn't matter the price you put for those 5 minutes, because other people are going to uh, spend many hours or even days trying to figure out what you did in 5 minutes. So all of this was going on at the same time, and it sort of snowballed into what I have today, which is Green Studio. And I started that this year, and formalizing like all my processes and aspects of doing online services for brands.
That's really cool. It's almost serendipity in a way, but it's also one of those things where it's like you worked really hard and then, the serendipity, quote unquote, happens. Um,
Yeah.
I was curious, something that stood out to me from what you're talking about is the beginning part of building up your blog, because
Mm-hmm.
you kind of like described it and it's like, oh, all of a sudden brands started approaching me, but um pulling from personal experience, like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not that easy to do that. um so what was actually going on, what was actually happening in those early days when you're trying to get yourself established with blogging?
I guess it's a lot of perseverance, because also I had to educate myself on the topic. You can't just start a blog and just think that overnight you're going to have traffic. I had to learn the strategies of how to create content that people are searching for, content that is useful, content that has a strategy, and not just sharing my everyday life like a lot of bloggers do. So like my strategy was very intentional. And a lot of people that I talked to when I lived in the US were like, seriously, do you work like 8 hours a day and you don't even get paid? Yeah, probably the first year of blogging, I didn't receive an income, because I was so immersed in learning and taking courses and looking at strategies, and writing those first 100 posts or more, to just trial and error, and see, and connecting it with an email marketing strategy, so that I would collect leads, and so that I would have something that can be monetized. Because but it did take like a lot of personal perseverance, because I said, I don't know if I'm going to live in the US forever. And if right now I can't work and I'm 25 years old and I don't have kids, like, yeah, I could have a very relaxed life and just go out and have coffees every day. But I said, okay, like it was also sort of, I guess, like my mental way of trying to think that I had a job, even though I didn't have it. And that mindset really helped me, to go through my days and to go through that phase of, I was, having a really busy life in Mexico. I had my steady income, and then it was like pause. So I just wanted to keep up with the flow that I had, even though I didn't have money coming right in. And that's how learning opportunities start to present to yourself. And I also learned about affiliate networks. So I became part of some affiliate networks, and that's where most of my clients come from, because it's an affiliate network specifically for ethical and sustainable brands, which is what I love. So that's sort of how it started.
That's really cool. um I was curious to learn more about what your like self-talk was during that time. Like, what
Hmm.
were you telling yourself? And how long did that go on for? How long? Because you mentioned 100 blog posts.
Hmm.
Um, how long was it before it was like, okay, this is actually bringing in some money now?
Um, I think I started bringing in some money. I don't really keep track, but it was probably like 6 months after I started. I didn't have the 100 blog posts yet, but it was because I had like a high quality Instagram page also, and like my media kit also mentioned, the traffic that I was getting, and that I have newsletter subscribers and all of that. So I think it's different, and the way that I started to make deals with brands is because if you learn how to sell yourself, it's easier. Because if you just, I don't know how to explain it. Like if you do what someone tells you, but like you don't have that sales skill, it's not going to be that easy. So, I started to invent like my own processes and my own way of approaching the brands and saying, yeah, if you invest on my blog, I'm not going to assure that you're going to have immediate sales, because a lot of brands have the misconception of, okay, I'm going to pay you, but like is it worth it? Am I gonna get sales? Like, am I gonna get 100 clicks? And I was really transparent about that. I was like, my blog is like an online magazine in which if you pay a sponsored post, obviously you will have a blog post, an Instagram post, whatever I had in my packages. But I always mention, like, this is very transparent. Like, I share what I like, and you're paying me for the hours I'm working and creating high quality content. But like, brands knew that I created high quality content, and it's not just an Instagram story. I took my time, I created nice blog posts, I took pictures, and I always, since I like supporting brands that do cool things, like I wouldn't just be the person that, if you send me something, I'll post a picture and never, post another picture of wearing the shirt or the dress or whatever. Like, till the day, I still take pictures of the clothes that I received and tag the brands. And you just create like a meaningful, long lasting relationship. And you're paying once, but I'm going to have your clothes forever, because even in the ethical and sustainable niche, you try and educate people about not buying more and about rewearing your clothes and ideas on how to style outfits. So I repurpose the clothes that I received from brands and still create content with that. So that was my approach. And even though maybe I didn't have like a lot of testimonials at first, I started to build my testimonials, being transparent with brands, and just telling them straightforward what they would get, and to not expect immediate sales. With some brands, I have made some sales, but with other brands, you don't, because as an influencer, if you want to call it that way, because I don't think I'm an influencer. I think like I'm a marketing strategist. I do things and I'm a blogger, but I'm not the person that if I post something immediately, like a super star, someone's going to buy things. If you have a blog, you have ideas, you have recommendations, but it's also up to the consumer to decide to purchase. So maybe even though I'm posting, a picture of this beautiful dress, if this beautiful dress is not your taste, or it's too expensive, or you don't ship to a country of the audience that's watching that, well, like, it's not my fault that it's not selling. So I think that was a main aspect, being like really transparent.
Mm. And what was it like getting comfortable with that? Because I can tap into that same feeling in my mind of, how can I demand this pricing, and how can I ask for these numbers when, you know, they may not get their money back right away in terms of sales. But what was that process like to become comfortable and confident in pitching your pricing, even though from the other side they might be like, well, what's my ROI going to be?
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's always been an evolution in that aspect, because it still happens to the day. Like, every time I elevate my prices in my services with Green Studio. At first, like the first time I sent an email, I was, obviously super scared. Like, this brand is not going to want to work with me. I'm so scared. I'm not sure. And you're like very insecure. But after, you start, you have nothing to lose. I think that's what I started to learn. Like, I have nothing to lose. If this brand wants to work with me or not, I might as well risk it and ask for a little bit more, or change my packages, or offer more in return, so that they feel that, okay, maybe I'm paying $100 for a sponsored post, but she's going to do a video, and she's going to include me in the newsletter, and she's going to post me 3 times. Like, I tried to compensate, like asking more with giving more, maybe, until I had that balance of what I was willing and not willing to do for certain prices. So obviously it's an experiment. Sometimes I did more than maybe the worth of the pay, but just to keep them happy, to get a nice review, so that I could potentially get more brands to be interested. And that was a process. And I think it's been the same process also with Green Studio. Like I mentioned in the beginning with the websites, like my first website, I charged $50, but I included like the whole, it's not just the design, because anyone can design a website on their own. It's, the brief, the call, the strategy, make sure the flow is right, and all of those aspects, and then training the people to use their website. So when I started to like chunk into pieces, okay, I'm doing all of this, I started to learn how to like charge the equivalent of the hours, and then, building up from there the packages. And it just made sense to charge more. And when you start losing, that fear of losing clients, you start getting the right clients. Because I think that that also happened with Green Studio. Because if you're too cheap and then you do things and then you're not satisfied because you're doing it for that price point because you're scared to charge more, you'll always be in this cycle of having clients that probably will never be willing to like invest more in their businesses. So that's something that I really take care of, and I've learned to not be scared of elevating my prices when I think I need to elevate them, so that I attract the clients that I'm happy with, to work with, because they value my work, they value the hours, and I value their pay. And it's like a balance in which you don't feel bad. So but it has been a process of learning to not have fear, because the more you risk, the more you can charge.
Mm, mm. Yeah, it sounds like what you're saying is you kind of have to take the first step and change your perspective, and
Mm-hmm.
then that will lead to working with the right people. But
Mm-hmm.
if your perspective is, my services are not worth that much, then you'll find people who believe your services are not worth that much. You get stuck
Mm-hmm.
in that cycle. Yeah. So I'm curious now that you've built this thing up, how long has it been since like the first blog post?
2 years.
Okay. So two
Almost
years.
three. Almost three.
Oh,
Yeah.
almost
In
three
December.
years.
Yeah. In December, it would be 3 years. Yeah.
Almost 3 years. You're at double your previous income. What's the vision from here? What do you want to do?
Well, it's been 3 years, but like the first year was a lot of experimenting. So I wouldn't really count it like I was full time monetizing it, because like until I started to really, really monetize it was until this year with Green Studio, with the services and with all of that, combining it. And the blog is more like a side income when brands want to be featured. Uh, but yeah, I started to see that, I built my strategy. I said, these are the services that I want to do. So we do websites, we do copywriting for blogs, for professional blogs, with the process and with keyword research. And we also do some branding, like for small entrepreneurs that want to know how to have a social media strategy. We do like a small brand book or a logo design. So I really, it was also a trial and error this year of okay, these are the services that I want to do. First, let's try and get clients, so that to see if it's a business, if people are interested in this. And in my inner circle, clients started coming. It was really mostly referral and for copywriting, because they found me online, because I took a course and I'm listed in some copywriting blogs. And uh, and and also with writing for blogs, I also get clients through the affiliate networks of my previous blogs. So it's like a cycle of, if a brand meets me, sort of like you found me through my blog. um, and then if you did a collaboration with me on my blog, I would introduce, hey, if you are interested in doing more with marketing, I also have Green Studio. I'm not just a regular like blog influencer. I also have this other thing. And that's the cycle that I've had. And so yeah, I was really surprised to see that there are months that I've doubled what I was earning before I moved to the US and all of that. So it's fun, because I'm in the stage where I'm learning how to delegate. I'm subcontracting other freelancers to do my job. So right now I have a small freelance team of 3-4 people that help me depending on the project that needs help. If it's websites, I have someone for websites. If it's copywriting, I have someone for copywriting. And it's really interesting, because I had that phase this year, and so I know that right now I can do more. So I can have my basic websites covered, because I'm learning to subcontract. So the next steps I have is to pop into like online courses and all of that, because with the websites that I create, I want to do like this complete package of, I'm not just doing a website, I'm helping you with your marketing strategy. So if you want to learn and you can't afford my monthly services, then this is another option that's like automized, and you can, purchase a course about copywriting, about email marketing, about Facebook ads or whatever. So that's in process. We're going to have our first workshop in Spanish, because it's it's funny, because I've also had like a lot of mixture of audiences. So um, there's also a lot of potential for Latin American people that don't really have uh, an understanding of the whole digital marketing strategies that's really developed in the US. And that's also something that I learned with my blog, which is in English. So I'm trying to do a mixture of, still having obviously an audience in the US or that speaks English, but there's a lot of potential for Latin American people to just come into this world and understand how it is with someone that also speaks their language, because I do see that there's potential in that. So I guess those are like the next steps to sort of build that audience that's interested also in online courses in Spanish and in English.
Oh, that's awesome.
But obviously it might take me like 5 years to get to that point, but but we
It's
all have
awesome
wishes.
and exciting. How do you feel looking back on 3 years ago when you got started and looking at now? Like, just hearing you talk about your goals now, it's like, it's so cool to be able to think about scaling a team and
Mhm,
putting automation into your business and growing it. But then you look back and it's like, just 3 years ago I was in Michigan
mhm.
sitting down to write a blog post. How does that feel looking back on that?
Honestly, I'm really passionate about what I do. I love, that I started this without really knowing that I would end up having my own business, because, like I mentioned in the beginning, I had no idea that like the freelancing path would be my path, because I had the mindset of growing in the corporate ladder and, being having, X position in a company. Like all of my friends are the same, so I really never thought that I would enjoy doing it, like on doing something like for me, because also the first jobs that I had were very related with numbers, with analyzing sales, and like I didn't really have that creative aspect in my full-time job. So I guess I'm really happy with myself that, because I had to quit my job and I had to just understand and get to know myself better, I explored this creative part of my brain somehow, that sometimes when you work in a full-time job, you just don't understand, or you don't see your full potential, because you're obviously consumed by the work. You're stressed, you have very little time on the weekends to, catch up with your personal life. So your life just goes on, and you can be stuck there forever, and it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just if you step out of that world, which is what happened to me, I got to understand myself. I got to understand, right now I don't have to work. I'm blessed that I have someone that can maintain me right now. So like, what do you like to do? Like, if you received money for the rest of your life, and you didn't have to go to a job, like what would you do? Would you still be working doing podcasts? It's like that those are things that or questions that I asked myself, that made me understand that, okay, I like this, I like fashion, I like helping people, and it snowballed. And I honestly didn't know that I would also have the patience of working with people that I would have to sort of explain and, be like a teacher, because since with the skills that I had in my previous jobs were very numerical and were very, sales, results, blah, 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 even your personality can change. So I didn't, like before, I didn't have a lot of patience. I didn't have a lot of tolerance. I got mad very quickly, and maybe that was related because of the previous work. Obviously, people grow, people change, and etc. But I don't know. It's been a creative part of my life that, you never know what you end up doing, and it's fun when you find your passion. And obviously, when you do what you like, it doesn't feel like a job. Because for me, working longer than 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, because I've got this crazy idea at 3 a.m. in the morning and I want to finish something, you do it because it's your business. And the sentiment is very different than working in a job. But I think
Mm.
that's my takeaway. Like, it's like the reward that you get for your first $100 of whatever you do as a freelancer is way much more than a paycheck from a company. That's how I felt. It's like you get really passionate, because it's like nobody knew me, and someone in the internet, subscribed to my newsletter. I was so happy the first time someone subscribed to my newsletter. It's like someone from the UK. It's like, it's not your mom, it's not your friend, you're not your next door neighbor. It's like someone literally found you on the internet, and it's really exciting. So I don't know, that's sort of what happened.
Yeah. Yep. I can resonate with pretty much all of that. It's like, it's so exciting. It's not even, you're not even making money. It's just like somebody subscribed to your email and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
it's gonna work. this is gonna work. This is what I'm doing forever now. Um,
Exactly.
Ah, that's amazing. I think that's an awesome place to leave people with that mentality of just how to think about it. I think that was an awesome way of describing it. Um, for anybody that's interested in learning more about the services that you offer or checking out your blog to kind of see that side of things, where can they go to see those things?
They can go to my website. It's green-studiomx.com, or you can also find me on Instagram with greenstudio.mx.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you so much.